COVID passports a threat to our freedom? Well, joining us now is former Health Minister Edwina Currie, who supports vaccine passports, and comedian actress Abby Roberts, who says if a club or theatre insists on having a vaccine passport, she will refuse to perform there. Very, very interesting. Now, Edwina Currie, I may have escalated your position slightly earlier on, because I believe you said you would go around with a passport stamped on your forehead, which I said tattooed. So if I've signed you up to something you're not prepared for, we've mocked up what you'd look like with some kind of coding on your forehead. You might not be able to see that. But you do feel very strongly about this, that you would be prepared to go to any length to display it if it meant getting out and about.
Well, I'm not sure exactly where I would want this tattoo to go in order to have to avoid displaying it. Yes, I mean, I hear what everyone says about freedom, but they're so keen on freedom that they're going to restrict my freedom and that of millions like me. I mean, we've got well over 31 million people have had their first vaccination now, and that includes quite a lot of people under 50 who have underlying health issues, people who are more at risk. We're powering on with that. All this weekend, we've probably vaccinated another 1 million people. I think it's brilliant. And if you add to that showing that you've had a negative test if you've not been vaccinated, I mean, what's not to like? It means I could go to the theatre. I've got tickets to see Bob Marley in London. It means my brother could go and see his beloved Liverpool Football Club. It means my grandchildren could actually go to a club, even if they couldn't actually hear our friend. But never mind, there will be others. There will be others. We can get out and about. We can enjoy our freedom once again. And if it encourages a few more people who are a bit reluctant to join the majority and get vaccinated, that's got to be a good thing too.
Edwina, does that then go hand in hand then? Therefore, are you saying that vaccines should be compulsory? Because what about if somebody, decides ethically they just don't want to take the vaccine? They don't want to take the vaccine. They're perfectly healthy, but they've decided they don't want to have the vaccine. Does that mean they are not allowed to go to anywhere like this in the future?
We haven't had compulsory vaccination in the country since I was a little girl. It stopped for smallpox in 1948. But yes, I hear what you say about somebody exercising their freedom not to have a vaccine, and they're perfectly healthy. I don't want them sitting next to me in the theatre. I don't want them standing next to me at the theatre bar. I don't want them next to me or anywhere near me or even in the same carriage on the train. So, yeah, they can exercise their freedom by staying at home. But millions and millions of us, 15 million pensioners, we can't wait to get out. You know what the main side effect is of being vaccinated, don't you? And that's itchy feet. And we're going to go out there, and I think there's an obligation on government to try and keep us as safe as possible. We are the majority. We have done all the right things, and we're very keen to get out there, spend our money, support the entertainment and the hospitality industries. I think our voice needs to be heard.
So Edwina's Summer of Love for Pensioners is on the cards. So look, Abby Roberts, Abby, Edwina's point is, when you talk about freedoms, it's whose freedoms are being restricted. Do you take the argument that if you choose not to get vaccinated, if you argue against having a vaccine passport because of the grounds of it being some kind of restriction in principle on freedom, then you are potentially limiting other people's freedoms?
Well, first of all, good morning and happy Easter. I didn't realise that I'd woken up in the UK SSR under the Communist Conservative Party run by Boris Johnson. I should explain, I've lived in a totalitarian regime. I've been to the Soviet Union since I was a kid in the 80s. And this is all very reminiscent of the time when you'd hear people say, "Bumashki, пожалуйста," which means papers, please. I do not want to live in a totalitarian police state. Thank you very much.
OK, but was what you were being asked for in Russia, was being asked for Russia specifically in response to a deadly, as yet incurable virus, or is it just a kind of flashback to memories of things that were more sinister?
flashback, well, to things that are more sinister. I mean, already the government has curtailed our civil liberties. It was 3 weeks to flatten the curve, and then it was a few months, and then it was stick a mask on, then it was put masks on children, and we cannot live in, I mean, this country, I went on the march on a couple of weeks ago on Saturday to protest freely and peacefully in a country that I'm proud of. And Churchill, let's not forget, we should thank him for pushing fascism back. We do not want fascism to take root in this country and to start to divide people into those who've had vaccines, those who haven't. And I have to say, congratulations to Gillian Anderson for her award for portraying Margaret Thatcher, who almost certainly, I will put money on, would have said, no, no, no.
Well, there you go. You've cited all sorts of political references there. We're going to come to Dr. Amir Khan in a moment, but can I just ask you, have you caught COVID yourself? Have you got COVID? Do you know anybody who's died from COVID or been severely affected by it?
I've got the antibodies. I tested positive for the antibodies. I don't know anyone who's had it. I've spoken to cab drivers. I mean, I go out and about. I speak to everyone. I mean, you know, there are a few restraining orders, but let's not go into that. I speak to shopkeepers about their families, about their friends. And honestly, I think I can not even count on one hand those who've been hospitalised or died. And I know it's very sad when people do. But we do not live in the prisoner. Everyone under 20, watch The Prisoner with Patrick McGoohan and watch them say, we want information, information, information. And his last line is, I am not a number, I am a free man. Right,
Dr. Amir Khan, are you trying to end Abi's freedoms? Because admittedly, she doesn't know anybody who's severely affected, so hasn't seen that side of the story. You have. You've seen many, many people who've lost their lives and who've been severely affected. But do you understand what she's arguing?
I understand the frustration that comes along with a years-long worth of a pandemic and the restrictions. And I understand that people feel passionate about things. I think Abi's very lucky that she hasn't come across someone who's been affected by COVID. You know, there must be very few of those people around at the moment who don't know anyone who's done it. Abi mentioned that the government have curtailed her freedoms, and she's likened it to all sorts of things that aren't really a fair comparison, in my opinion. The reasons these restrictions were put into place was to save lives. We lost over 130,000 people to COVID. It would have been so much more had we perhaps done what Abi may have wanted, which is just to open up and let things run their course. And we'd be in a much worse position now. I understand her frustration. I understand why she's fed up with it. We all are fed up. But it's all about the greater good and saving lives.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just thinking, I remember, you know, if you go to Africa, you have to have the yellow fever jab, don't you?
You do. And
you have to have... And I remember when I went to Kenya for the first time, I was trying to remember where it was. I remember I had to show it at the airport.
Yeah.
And I think I went to a game reserve or went to somewhere in
has to be stamped in your passport.
Yeah.
And then whenever they ask for the passport...
And it was one of the places, and I remember how we had to show our yellow fever. I had no problems with it, really. Thinking about, you know, you feel like it's perfectly normal. And I don't buy this that it's an ID card. I really don't. And I have another thing about ID cards. I am one of the people that don't really care. I mean, I haven't got a lot to hide, and I know it's an old cliche, but yeah, are they still there? Are they still there? Have we lost our guests? Listen, should we just say goodbye? Edwina Curry, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you tattooed with your QR code wherever you decide to put it. And Abi, it means that you won't be performing in any comedy clubs, maybe, for some time to come. Will we see you just online then?
I'll be opening my own comedy club. No masks, no vaccines, no tests. Come along, Edwina, and you guys, you'll love it. You'll be free.
I don't think Edwina will be there, but we'll go. It's good to hear from you this morning. Good to hear from you both.
Cheers.